Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Greene. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Greene is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview Sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
Do you want to become insanely successful? Do you want to be the go-to guru in your industry? Do you want to be talked about for all the right reasons? For over 40 years, Kevin Harrington has helped people just like you become significant influencers. Now he's broken the process down in the Key Person of Influence Roadmap, and it's yours for free. Just text KPI to him at 727-888-2100. Text KPI to 727-888-2100 right now and claim your free step-by-step guide. Text KPI to 727-888-2100 to get the recognition you deserve and experience the success as the go-to voice everyone listens to in your industry today. Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast. This is your co-host, Seth Greene. I have the good fortune to be joined by the inventor of the infomercial and the original shark on Shark Tank, Kevin Harrington. Kevin, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, Seth. Great to be here today. Appreciate it. Looking forward to a nice interview. We've got a special guest today.
We do. We have the honor of interviewing Todd Herman, who is a performance and advisor and coach for professional athletes, thought leaders, and public figures. Todd, and I know we're going to talk about Todd's new book that's coming out. Todd, thanks so much for joining us.
Well, it's great to be on a panel with some legends here. So thanks for having me.
Well, what does performance advisor and coach mean to our lay people?
Well, I mean, most people are always so focused on the doing of stuff, you know, like, so in the context of, say, professionals, they're always talking about things like productivity and I want to, you know, do more or do things more efficiently. And the reality is when you take a look at the fundamentals of what truly high-performing people or the elite people that have produced some phenomenal results, what they focus on is it's the 6 inches between the ears. They have a mindset, they have a way of thinking about things, or they're just way better at developing the clarity of focus, of knowing what they want to go do. I know so many leaders who have got messy desks, who don't have their calendars all planned out, like is the prescription for most people that are productive, or productive, quote unquote. And so, well, why is that? Well, my job is to help people develop the mindset to win. So I work with people on mental game strategies. I just wrote a book about, you know, the stuff that I've worked with pro athletes on for the last 17 years. And yeah, so I dive into the hard stuff, the 6 inches between the ears.
Hey, Todd. So now that's what many of these athletes and business people need. One of the things when I first heard about your services, I was thinking that you potentially also help them maybe position themselves to get more, you know, projects or deals. Do you get into the deal side of athletes, or is it primarily what goes between their ears side of it?
I've actually stayed away from that side of it. I mean, I have made connections happen or whatever, but there's an entire industry and a business around where agents go and sit there. And if I tried to do that myself, it would probably muddy my brand in that marketplace. People then, you know, it's that classic case of, well, what do you do then? Like, I didn't realize you did that as well. And so I've really stayed in that lane, and it's the lane that I like to stay inside of. But I mean, I've definitely, as an advisor to athletes, and I've stayed very, very strict around the fact that I never share who I work with. And Kevin, we would have mutual friends even in the pro athlete space. What's the one thing that they don't have? It's trust. Everyone wants something from them. And so because I'm dealing with the sensitive stuff of, like, you know, I really want to know, like, how much do you actually believe in your skill set? Like, how much do you actually believe that you're the best person on your team? Because the reality is, in pro athletics, most of them don't think that way. And I need to know that. And the only way they're going to feel safe to tell me that stuff is if I promise to never, ever disclose who I work with.
Right. Gotcha. So, that's important. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now when you, it's got to be a challenge as you talk to some of these athletes even getting them to admit that they need your services? How do you get over that part of the equation? Okay.
Well, Kevin, in business, I was never as smart as you were starting out. So I got into what I've been doing now since 1997. And so mental game coaches, which is kind of what I called myself early on, was not a thing. I mean, there were definitely guys that were out there, but they were all typically in the individual sports spaces, and which are always the earlier adopters. Like skiing had sports psychologists on staff in the 1980s. Tennis players started developing them, but in team sports, it wasn't very popular. So to your point, it wasn't popular when I started doing it. However, in about 2003 was probably the big switching point in team sports, where all the athletes were showing up for their spring camps, or their, football would be the summer camps, and they would be doing their beep tests, and they'd be doing their strength tests and all that kind of stuff. And what you saw was everyone equalized out. Everyone could pretty much do the same bench. Everyone could run the same speed, and so why is that? Well, because for 6 years before that, everyone had a strength coach, a speed coach, a skill coach, and then the really good athletes would go, okay, well then what's the next thing? Just like you think that way, just like I'm going to think that way. What's the next thing that people like that I can get my advantage again? And so the best of the best were like, well, it's me mastering this inner game stuff, this mental game stuff. And so team sports is always lagging behind individual sports. And that's when my business really started to take off, was in around 2003, where I had Major League Baseball players reaching out way more, NFL, NBA, NHL, which I was already in. But it was difficult back then, not as much anymore.
Well, the one sport that sticks out to me, and not because I love golf, but that's a mental game. And I mean, it's obvious. I mean, McIlroy won the Players Champion just this weekend. He'd been dry for years, and this is a game that takes such mental clarity and all of that, right? I mean, do you have any golf clients?
Tons. And you're right. I mean, when you think of a difficult sport, I mean, they're out there competing for, 3 hours and 45 minutes to up to 5 hours, depending on the pace of play.
Yeah.
And you're actually only truly executing your sport for roughly 2 minutes, because that's about the length of a swing, right? So a length of a swing is about 1.4 seconds. Multiply that out by about 70 shots.
Right.
You're like a minute and a half, right? So the rest of the time you're left to your own devices in your mind, and that's where you're planning strategy. Okay, so what's the strategy that I'm going to play for this hole? Then you're always dealing with other factors, and so few sports operate that way, right? Where there's so much waiting. And I mean, we all know that most people create a hell from heaven than they do a heaven from hell in their own mind.
Right.
And so absolutely, it's that emotional management system that we're trying to focus on with those athletes.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, we're talking about athletes right now, but the people that are listening, entrepreneurship, when I think of the people that I work with, because I'm going to go from talking to my athlete, and then the very next moment I'm talking to an executive here in New York, where I live, New York City here, or an entrepreneur. If there's a group that has way less control, entrepreneurs have way less control than even athletes do. And so it's a far more mental game, I think, in entrepreneurship, because there's just way more variables involved. There's so many ways to do something.
Do agents refer their clients over to you then? Because you're going to help an agent make more money if you can position their client to be better positioned for the marketplace, get more money, et cetera, right?
Yeah, there's basically been 3 agents that have been pretty solid deal flow for me over the years. Now it's at a level, because I've been doing this for so long, and you know this, Kevin, like at the highest levels of business or anything, you're getting client, or the CEO says to another CEO, like, geez, we're really dealing with a lot of board issues right now. Like there's so much in alignment. Everyone has their own strategy, or they have their own whatever. And agenda, exactly. Thank you. Agenda. And the guy goes, oh, you should talk to so-and-so. They came and helped us on our board. That's how it all happens. And same thing with the athletes. They're sitting next to each other in the locker room, and they're going, no, geez, the new coach is just riding me. He's like, I'm not getting enough playing time. I'm really starting, they'll talk about their confidence, being lost. And he goes, you got to talk to Todd. You got to talk to my guy. And so, yeah, that referral now I've got, and because I'm so private with my clients, like even in my phone, they're all in there as aliases. My wife has only accidentally met one of my clients, and that was because she walked by a window in New York City where I was sitting down having dinner with one of them. And she came in and she saw us, and so she sat down for a few minutes. And then when I saw her later that night, she was like, "Who's that really good looking guy that you're with?" And I was like, "That's one of my clients." And she started doing this jig. She's like, "I just met a client." But yeah, so it's fun. But I mean, this is it's a great challenge. But I mean, I've broken it down into, there are some really basic fundamentals that we stick to, but the hard part of it is the discipline for most people, the discipline to stick with something.
So that's a perfect segue. So for those of us who aren't professional athletes,
yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the book. What prompted you to write it? What's it all about? And how can our viewers and listeners get a copy of it and apply your principles to their own businesses?
Yeah. So, well, this is, I mean, if you see yellow all behind me here. About 17 years ago, after I started to, I was in my business now for about 5 years. I started working with better and better high quality elite athletes. There was this common thread that kept on showing up amongst the ones who were consistently performing at a high level. And they would say things like, you know, when I go out there, I have a different persona when I play, or I step into a character, or I have a secret identity that they'll use. And for me, it was always like, oh, because I played college football at a high level. I was a nationally ranked badminton player as well, which, you know, people obviously, badminton, football, they go perfectly together, right? But I never took myself onto the court or the field. I always stepped into and I always created this alter ego for myself. And so when they would say those things to me, I was like, oh, that's fascinating. I did the same thing. And then after a while, I was like, wait a second, there's a commonality here of the ones who are performing at the highest level. And so I started unpacking it more and developed this process for how to build an alter ego to help you actually untap the heroic qualities that are already sitting inside of people. Because I don't look at someone, Kevin or Seth, and go, oh, well, that person's broken and I need to fix them. That's never my approach as a coach or advisor. It's always, you've got everything that you need right now, but it's buried under the weight of crappy internal narrative. Personal trauma for some people is a, you know, puppet string that holds people back. The worries and the criticisms and the judgments of others that people are concerned about. You know, it's that classic idea of we don't want to get kicked out of our own tribe. And so all those things hold people back from actually showing up like they can. And so instead of me going and trying to fix you or change you, because change is extremely difficult for people, I'm like, you know what, why don't we custom build a new identity for yourself that you can act through onto the field of play so that all of your skills can get out there untethered from all those strings of resistance. And because it's what I did. I mean, I was not a physically gifted human being at 6'4" and 240 pounds, something like that. I was 6 feet, 160 pounds, and I was in high school. But when I went on that football field, I stepped into Geronimo. That was my alter ego. I'm a huge Native American buff. I took Ronnie Lott and Walter Payton as kind of composite parts of that with me out there. And that's who I played through. And it allowed me to play way bigger than my 156 or 60 pound frame. Well, that wasn't me faking skills. This isn't about faking skills. Because I mean, what I'm trying to do is just get all the skills that you've already got, you know, all of that preparation that you've put in and the routine that you've built to get out there so that you actually, because I'm trying to get you into zone and flow state. And an alter ego has a fantastic ability to help people get into the zone and flow state.
Does this work also for then entrepreneurs? Is that the alter ego concept?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you think about, I mean, we're all performing. Like, you might not be under the white hot light of, a stadium or whatever, but performance is getting a result, right? And in business, there's many things that we're all challenged to do that are not part of our core competencies, or, business moves at such a fast speed, especially nowadays, that we're constantly developing new skills for ourselves, which is bringing us out of a comfort zone. And anytime you're out of comfort zone, that's a natural spot for all of us to doubt ourselves or lack the confidence or not show up like we could, or we beat ourselves up when we put our head on the pillow at night and go, why didn't I say that? Why didn't I close the deal when the guy was obviously interested in what I had, but I was concerned about making sure I went through the entire presentation or whatever. So, or when you get on stage, Kevin, you are 100% elevating and magnifying other parts of your personality to get your message out there. I mean, we all have to act a little bit bigger when we're on stage so that we can fill up that space, right? That's not you being fake. That's not you. That's you being very intentional about the you that you're bringing to that situation to get the best results for yourself and the people that are listening to you, right? That's natural. We all understand that. And so what I'm simply saying is an alter ego is a natural part of the human psyche. Every single human being has used this. We've done it when we were kids, when we tried to pretend to jump off of the sofa with the Batman cape on to see how far we could jump, or when you go out into the front driveway and you're, you know, shooting hoops like you're LeBron, or hitting the puck like you're Wayne Gretzky, or whoever it might be. What you're doing is you're asking yourself, what could I do if I was this person? It's a natural part. It's us tapping into our creative imagination, right? And then we start walking away from it. So the alter ego is really natural and especially powerful for entrepreneurs to do, because what it does is it silos your identity. Instead of you saying, I am only an entrepreneur, which is very dangerous to the self, you're actually saying, you know, as an entrepreneur, this is who I want to be. And you know what, right now, I've got some like insecurities about the way that I'm showing up as a leader. Maybe you've developed yourself now, you've got 5 people working for you, and this leadership role is new to you and you're failing at it somewhat. Happened to me. I wasn't good at delegating, but you know what? If I go, geez, who would I be if I was a phenomenal leader in my business? You know, is there someone that you're inspired by? And then you know what? When I'm having those leadership conversations, I'm going to leave that kind of self that is insecure about my skills, and I'm going to step in and through being, you know, insert whoever it is that you are inspired by as a leader.
Yeah, I remember 25 years ago, I had a meeting, was flying over to Saudi Arabia to meet with the Sheikh Saleh Camel. He owned all the TV networks in the Middle East. And so this was a very powerful meeting, but I was very intimidated prior to going into the meeting. And so I had to put my mind into being able to really rocket myself into a very powerful presentation to the Sheikh. So I kind of put myself on his level to be able to say, hey, like I'm here, you know, to decide which person I want to be doing business with. You are one of your competitors, and it turned around to where he had to sell me on the whole concept from there. So it was very, come on in, thank you, put it right over. I got someone at the front door here, sorry guys. So anyway, it was by doing that I was able to make a turn of events and turn the tide that he was then pitching me on why we should be doing business. So sort of an alter ego kind of a thing. I never called it that, but it's, I got you completely how it all comes together.
Well, and I mean, what I've given voice to with this, because the moment someone sees the cover or heard me talk about it, they go, oh my God, I feel like I've used this in parts of my life. And I go, yeah, I know you have. And so what I'm trying to do is normalize it and say, no, this is a very normal way that we as human beings can get past the initial force of resistance and get momentum going for ourselves. Because in business, in sport, the most dangerous thing an opposition can have is momentum. Because momentum begets confidence, and confidence then begets the most dangerous thing that anybody could have, which is certainty if you're a competitor. Because certainty becomes a DNA based thing. It's when you know that you can now compete against the athlete that's, you know, ranked 30 spots ahead of you, and you're like, oh, I'm on the same level. It's like, look out, because that's what that's what we use when you're ranked number 1. I mean, that's what Tiger Woods' greatest superpower was actually the lack of psychology that everyone else had, right? Because the moment that they saw that they were paired with Tiger on Sunday, that's what Tiger wanted. Tiger wanted the intimidation factor, right? And so, it's such a common thing. And, you know, so then what I did was I just built out this really powerful methodology. And you know what? You know, I think the people who do others a great disservice in the self-help world are the ones who try to invent new things that run counter to how the mind actually works. All I'm doing is I'm flicking natural psychological switches that you've already got built inside of you that just greases the slide towards the action that you want to take. You know, like on the cover of the book, which I'm holding up if you're watching the video or if you're listening, is a pair of glasses. And, you know, people who know me know that I wear glasses for dress. I actually don't really need glasses. And when I first started a business, I wore glasses because I felt like I looked like I was 12, and I wanted to, and I was so insecure about how young I looked and who was going to believe me when I stood up there and talked about mental game stuff. So I went out and I bought a pair of glasses to activate this more intellectual self. So I called it my reverse Superman.
Yeah.
But people, those glasses aren't like, you know, honoring me and my idea. They're not honoring Superman and Clark Kent. Those are actually a replica of Martin Luther King's glasses. Because Martin Luther King wore a pair of non-prescription glasses as well, or he called them his fake glasses, because he felt like he was doing he's carrying such an important mission forward. So he went out and got a pair of non-prescription glasses, and he put them on when he was doing his writing to step into what he called his distinguished self. That was his distinguished self alter ego.
Gotcha.
So that he could write the words he most wanted to say to inspire a group of people to take non-violent action, right? And I, you know, even in the book I share about Winston Churchill, he would stand in front of his wall of hats and he would ask himself the question, which self should I be today? So, you know, great leaders have used this fantastic ability of creating context for themselves and being very intentional about how they want to show up. And, it's such a powerful mindset tool to help people just do the natural hard things that I know people come to you for. So
amazing. Hey, is there any, without naming names, obviously a magical transformation that one of your clients, had a before and after with?
Sure.
Talk to the event itself.
Yeah. So there was it's actually in chapter 1 of the book, I talk about this young guy, Anthony, who he was on my email list. This is years ago. And in one passing reference on an email one day, I talked about how I would show up at the Reebok Sports Club here in New York City, and that's where I would work. And it was great because lots of pros came through there, and that's where all the NBA teams came and practiced when they were playing against the Knicks. Anyways, one morning I show up, and this young kid lived down in DC. He was 14. I showed up at 9 a.m. and there waiting in one of the chairs was this young kid, Anthony. And he snuck out of his grandmother's house. Both of his parents had passed away. And he caught the 4:30 train from DC up to New York to meet with me. And so, I mean, obviously I'm going to give this young kid time after I made him call his grandmother to let her know where the heck he was. But he was passionate about basketball, but he was allowing himself to play second fiddle against another guy that was on his team. And he was kind of putting himself on that second rung of the ladder. He's like, despite that, I know that I can play as good as he does, but in the waning moments of the game, I'll pass the ball off to him, or the coach will look to him to be the finisher for the team. And I want to be that guy. And so anyways, we start unpacking this more. And I talk about how anytime you're building that other identity, or you're using someone else to inspire new action for you, you want to emotionally really resonate with that person or that animal. Like for Kobe Bryant, it was the black mamba. And I talk about in the book how he came up with the idea of the black mamba, where that origin story came from. So for Anthony, it was, we were unpacking it, and I said, you know, like what inspires you, or how do you want to be showing up out there? And he was running through all these different names. And then he's like, oh, I just saw this documentary on the Black Panther. Do you know much about the Black Panther? And I said, no, I don't really know that much. And he's like, you know what its nickname is? It's called the Ghost of the Forest. And I said, wow, Anthony the Ghost, that could be yours. And so, but what he took it to another level was, he said, yes, and I'm going to haunt everybody on the court with my skills, but I am bringing my mom and my dad with me out there because they were passed away in a tragic car accident. And that was because you don't want to dishonor the idea of the alter ego ever. Like when I'm wearing those glasses and I'm stepping into Superman or Super Richard, there's not a chance in hell I'm going to dishonor that memory. And he's not going to dishonor Anthony the Ghost on that court. And he did. He plays in the NBA now. He had a full ride college scholarship just a long time ago, full ride college scholarship, but transformed who he was in a moment. That's what I love about it.
Love it.
That is an absolutely incredible story. Todd, I know your time is valuable, and we're just about to wrap up. Where can our listeners and viewers go to get a copy of your book?
Well, if they just go to alteregoeffect.com, all the links to all the different retail channels are out there. It's in airport bookstores, Barnes & Noble, Indigo if you're in Canada, Amazon, of course. So just look for the bright yellow book with a pair of glasses on it.
Awesome. Alter Ego.
Right.
Todd Herman, thank you so much for joining us.
Gents, you guys are champs. Thank you.
Todd, good luck, buddy.
Thanks, Kev.
Loved our conversation today. I look forward to touching base soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Do you need money to fund your idea, product, or service? Are you ready to take your business to the next level, but need capital to get it done? Kevin Harrington has heard more than 50,000 pitches and knows how to help you make the perfect pitch to get the funding for your entrepreneurial dream. He's distilled the process down in his perfect pitch cheat sheet, and it's yours for free. Just text PITCH to him right now at 727-888-2100. Text PITCH to 727-888-2100 right now and claim your free perfect pitch cheat sheet. Text PITCH to 727-888-2100 to start funding your dream today.
This show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC. To discover how you can have your own show completely done for you and turn it into a real published book and become the authority in your marketplace, go to www.marketdominationllc.com/podcast offer.